Jackson's a project. He's not Sam Darnold. He's not Josh Rosen. You watched him last night. He's not even close.
For 3 years, he's kicked to the curb. He's a wide receiver. He's a bust. He can't play quarterback.
We've got to figure out is the football intelligence, how quickly he picks things up.
What's up, everybody? How's everyone doing today? I'm Slim Paco. Welcome to my channel. I'm a train wreck, but I'm here regardless. Who else misses football? I know I do, but there's not much going on in the National Football League right now. Teams are gearing up for the mandatory mini camps, and besides that, the news cycle has been pretty slow. So I think it would be a nice idea to take a look back at one of the best NFL teams that didn't even manage to win a playoff game, the 2019 Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens went into the league's 100th year with high expectations. They had just completed a decent 2018, in which they had installed Lamar Jackson as their new starting quarterback over longtime elite vet Joe Flacco, and had been eliminated in the playoffs by the San Diego Chargers in a tightly contested game where, let's face it, Jackson didn't have his best stuff. So there were multiple questions surrounding the quarterback, but less about the rest of the team. Coach John Harbaugh had put together a solid roster from front to back, offensively and defensively. Let's start by taking a look at the defense, which has long been the bedrock of Ravens football. Gone were the Ray Lewises and Ed Reeds, but players such as Matthew Judon, Marcus Peters, Michael Pierce, and new free safety signing Earl Thomas would be able to hold down the fort and squash any other team's attempts to score. The defense had ranked at number 1 overall in the league in 2018, and we're hoping to continue that trend into 2019. On the other side of the ball, this is where it was a little trickier to figure out. The Ravens offense consisted of a 22-year-old quarterback going into his second year, 2 aging running backs in Mark Ingram and Gus Edwards, a tight end going into his second year as well in Mark Andrews, and a rookie wideout Marquise Hollywood Brown. The rest of the offensive cast was a mashup of cast-offs and guys who had underperformed so far since their arrival in the Charm City. So while the Ravens were expected to lock it down on defense, their offense was not supposed to be anything spectacular and really more akin to a dying fish, just straight flopping. And to start off the season, yeah, that was pretty much what you were getting from the Ravens. Well, not in the first game. I think from the jump, everyone could tell this year was going to be different for Baltimore. The Ravens started off the 2019 season with 2 pretty dominant wins over the Miami Dolphins and the Arizona Cardinals, before following up that little win streak with back-to-back losses to the Kansas City Chiefs and Cleveland Browns. In Week 5, the Ravens and Pittsburgh Steelers faced off in their first of 2 rivalry games, and this is probably the game where Lamar Jackson's star really began to shine. So, in the game against the Dolphins back in Week 1, Jackson had won AFC Player of the Week after throwing for 324 yards and 5 touchdowns. After that blazing hot start, coupled with the 2 losses, he had cooled off some, but he rebounded in the Steelers game, leading Baltimore to a 26-23 overtime victory. And it wasn't just Lamar who played well either. The Ravens' defense was stalwart, especially during the overtime quarter. On a second down pass play, Juju Smith-Schuster took a short pass from Duck Hodges 10 yards upfield, but the ball was punched out by Marlon Humphrey, who also recovered the fumble. This set up the Ravens with great field position, and just a few plays later, Justin Tucker kicked a 46-yard field goal through the uprights for the win. This victory would spark the Ravens on an 11-game win streak that saw them go from a compact but middling team to an absolute freaking beast unit. Things really started cooking for the purple and black the next week against the Cincinnati Bengals. Even though the win was another relatively close one, the Ravens defense showed out once more, holding Cincinnati to only 20 minutes of possession, about half of the time Baltimore had the ball. This was also the first game Baltimore started to unveil their dynamic run game. Lamar Jackson passed for 228 yards, but he, Ingram, and Gus Edwards combined for an astounding 269 yards on the ground. This was really the first time since that Dolphins game when people started taking note of what was happening with the Ravens. And 2 weeks later, they would play a nationally televised game against a league powerhouse and show everyone that this wasn't a normal year for Baltimore. Going into Week 5, the Baltimore Ravens had a 5-2 record and was sitting atop the AFC North. On November 3rd, following a well-deserved bye week, they returned home to face the biggest challenge of the season, the undefeated 8-0 New England Patriots. Now, I probably don't need to explain to you the significance of this game, solely based on Baltimore's opponent. The New England Patriots were the standard of the NFL for almost 20 years, winning 6 Super Bowls with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. And that's all the glazing I'm going to do for them, though, because I freaking hate the Patriots! Anyways, back to the Ravens. Honestly, I feel like I could make a whole video about this game itself. There's a long season to recap, so I'll just skip to the important parts. Lamar Jackson put on a show in this game, as did the rest of the team. Jackson started out the game with a 3-yard touchdown run, capping off a 75-yard 12-play drive. Once again, it was the defense that set the tone by forcing a 3-and-out on the Patriots' first drive. When the Ravens got the ball back, they promptly drove down and kicked the field goal to make it a 10-0 game. For a while, New England and Baltimore battled back and forth in a defensive matchup, and it was Baltimore's defense that made the biggest play of the game. About 3 minutes into the third quarter, the Patriots drove down to the Ravens' 30. Tom Brady connected on a short out to Julian Edelman, who was immediately wrapped up by Patrick Onwuasu. Unfortunately for the Patriots, but fortunately for the rest of the world, Edelman fumbled the ball and it was returned 70 yards for a touchdown by none other than Marlon Humphrey. That made it a 24-13 game, and though the Patriots scored another touchdown on their next drive, the Ravens would not look back. Lamar Jackson would throw and rush for touchdowns on consecutive drives, and the Ravens left the bank with a 37-20 victory. This game against the Patriots was a launching pad for the Ravens, and especially for Lamar Jackson. The following week against the Bengals, Jackson had a run that was on the highlight reels for weeks, even going into the 2020 season. Hold up. Y'all thought I was just gonna get past the run like that? Nah. Roll back the footage. Let's break this thing down. Alright, so think of the sweet fake handoff. Lamar grabs it, breaks an ankle. Ooh! Okay, so we gotta go back to the spin. We gotta go back to the spin move. My man Lamar Jackson breaking ankles and have this man doing the stanky leg. That man had a family, Lamar. LJ took his soul. He had that man looking like,
お前はもう死んでいる。何?
and then to cap it off, Lamar takes off running for the end zone like me running to a buffet when I see fried chicken and watermelon. Come on, man. Lamar, you don't have to do them niggas like that, boy. 2 weeks later, Lamar Jackson threw for 5 touchdowns against the Los Angeles Rams in a 45-6 trouncing, now known as the Jackson 5 game. The Ravens defense completely shut down the defending NFC champs as well, including forcing 3 turnovers. A couple weeks later, the Ravens faced off against the Buffalo Bills in a matchup of 2 up-and-coming QBs in Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. Yet another game that could have received its own video. Jackson's play was described as backyard football-like, and the Bills' defense had no answer for a slippery, Vic-esque style of football. Although statistically speaking, this was Baltimore's worst offensive game of the year, Jackson still threw for 3 TDs, and the D sacked Allen 6 times and held Buffalo to 209 total yards. A couple of weeks later, Jackson solidified his MVP campaign, as if he hadn't already, by eclipsing the 1,000-yard rushing mark in a game against the New York Jets. By doing so, he became the first quarterback ever to pass for over 3,000 yards and run for over 1,000 in a season. Over the final 2 games of the season against Cleveland and Pittsburgh, which Baltimore also won, the Ravens defense carried most of the load, holding their opponents to 15 and 10 points, respectively. So, real quick recap of the Ravens season up to that point. They had the MVP and quite possibly the best player in the league in Lamar Jackson. They had the number 2 ranked defense and the number 4 ranked offense in the game. 13 Pro Bowlers. 2 players who rushed for over 1,000 yards in Jackson and Mark Ingram. John Harbaugh was head coach of the year. And they went into the playoffs as the #1 seed in the AFC, riding an 11-game win streak. Everything seemed to be looking up for Baltimore. Well, until, you know. January 11th, 2020. A day that will live in Baltimore Ravens infamy. After receiving a bye for the #1 standing, the Ravens got to wait to see who they would face in the divisional round. Their opponent would be the Tennessee Titans, who entered the playoffs as the 6th seed, a team that hadn't even clinched the playoff spot until the final game of the season. The Titans had upset the Patriots in the wildcard round, who were still considered the underdog against the Ravens, who were projected as favorites by a touchdown. The game started at 8:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with a touchback from Justin Tucker. The first 2 drives between the teams resulted in a punt from Tennessee and an interception thrown by Jackson, which Kevin Byard returned for 16 yards. 8 plays later, the Titans would draw first blood with a 12-yard touchdown pass from Ryan Tannehill to Jonnu Smith. But the Ravens wouldn't stay down for long, right?
Stop the cap.
Baltimore would be stopped short on a 4th down QB sneak, and it would only take 1 play for Tennessee to double up the score. Now down 14, the Ravens had to respond, but all they could muster was a field goal to make it 14-3. They would get another field goal before halftime, going into the locker rooms down 14-6. On their first drive to start the second half, the Ravens drove all the way to the Titans' 18-yard line, but just had happened earlier in the game, were stopped on a 4th down attempt. The Titans would get the ball back and end their drive with a touchdown pass from Derrick Henry, of all people. And following a Lamar Jackson fumble on the Ravens' first play after kickoff, Tannehill would rush for a 1-yard TD to extend the Titans' lead to 28-6. Although this would be the final points Tennessee would score on the night, their defense would basically stonewall Baltimore apart from a garbage time TD early in the 4th quarter. At the end of the night, the Tennessee Titans had shocked the football world, defeating the NFL's best team 28-12. So what went wrong for the Ravens? Well, in the craziest twist of irony, the Ravens had been defeated by the very same thing that had made them seem unbeatable, a strong run game. Derrick Henry had crashed and gashed Baltimore's defense to the tune of 195 yards, and the Titans had amassed a total of 217 yards on the ground, with only 91 yards through the air. Also, questionable coaching decisions and time management were also to blame for the Ravens' loss, though many people would point the finger to Lamar Jackson's poor play based on his 2 picks and 63.2 quarterback rating as the main reason behind their defeat. No matter the cause of the Ravens' surprising L, it cannot be overstated that they had just suffered one of the most unbelievable collapses in recent NFL history. And that's the video. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I know it was a bit of a longer one, so I appreciate y'all for sticking around this whole time. So what do you guys think? Do you guys think the Ravens are the greatest team to never win the Super Bowl? Does that title belong to the 2007 Patriots? Maybe Cam Newton and the 15-1 Panthers? Or how about the Falcons blowing the 28-3 lead in the Super Bowl? Let me know in the comment section down below. As always, it's been a pleasure making this video for y'all. Make sure you like the video if you like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and share it with your family and friends. Love all y'all, and I'll catch y'all in the next video. Later.
She's really good.